Good morning. Good morning. Just to finish our conversation, that's because she gave me a good price. You know me, I have to finish and then we turn the page. Welcome to the podcast, The Millionaire of the Diamonds. What a podcast is going to be. It's the final attribute. Da-da-da, da-da-da, da-da-da. Thank God I didn't go into singing, right? Okay. The final attribute of the 11, it's called cooperation. The successful leader must understand and apply the principle of cooperative effort and be able to induce his followers to do the same. Leadership calls for power, and power calls for cooperation. Beautifully said, but what does it eat in winter? Like type of thing, right? I'm trying to think of somebody that would have read that book without the podcast, The Millionaire of the Diamonds. And no, I'm not undermining anybody's intelligence. It's just that it's impossible for somebody that doesn't come from a corporate world or leadership world that is going to get all of this through that sentence. This is why the podcast, The Millionaire of the Diamonds, is important. It's not motivational. It's not inspirational, but it is transformational. And it's pretty simple. It's pretty simple. It's all about taking back responsibility because you've given it away, right? Every time you say, it's not my fault, or Melanie, somebody took my keys. Somebody took my keys, okay? You're giving away your power, okay? And we want you to control your lives through your own acceptance of responsibility. So today, my friends, what you're going to expect from me, storytelling, the difference between the way my parents raised me versus how I raised my kids, the difference between how I ran my business versus how my mom ran her business. And you're really going to get the visual of back in the days, old parenting versus modern parenting, old marriages versus new marriages, old leaders versus new leaders. Just by the way, we still have leaders and bosses that yell at their employees, just so you know, it still exists. Okay. And Melanie Miller is going to explain what happens scientifically, neurologically, when leaders use force versus cooperation. So I'm quite excited for today's podcast. And don't worry, Marie-Pierre is your social mirror. She's going to put it in your face. She's going to put it in your face. Who are you? And I was just sharing something. I cannot mention any names on the other podcast, but I remember it like yesterday. Okay, let me articulate this properly so I don't give away who I'm talking about. Okay, so Melanie Miller's going, ooh, what is she talking about? So we have had directors, maybe still have directors, that are actually jealous if you are to talk to one of their team members. Imagine I want to talk to Sherry, and it actually bothers Melanie Miller. That's because she is the controlling leader. You understand? Okay. And if Sherry would decide to do something a little bit different from Melanie Miller, if she's a controlling leader, it would really upset Melanie Miller, and she would go on a tangent on why Sherry can't do that. So what would have happened is Sherry would have closed down rapidly, and she wouldn't be the great leader she is today. But unfortunately, even in my business, I have had directors that keep their people small because of their dominating behaviors. You know, the leader that is not cooperative, but my way or the highway. So I want every leader out there listening today to understand you are the biggest problem if you're that type of leader. Okay. And people will leave you. And I was thinking of my mother, like Hélène Jalbert. She left my mother because she was a great leader, but my mom was more of a dominating leader. And she went and opened up her Electrolux, the vacuum cleaner franchise. So I was thinking of all of this as I was preparing. I said, it's so good to be able to close the 11 attributes with this. My God, this book is brilliant. Okay. So hang in there. Let's share the podcast with everybody out there that is a poor leader that doesn't know how to lead. How many people what percentage would that equate to? I'm not going to say anything. I'll leave it up to you to who you're going to share it with. Over to you, Marie-Pierre.
Okay, so let's start to share. So you have the arrow just beside where you write your comments, so you can share on every social media platform, and you have the text in the comment that you can copy paste it so people understand why they should listen to the podcast. But of course, when you have someone in mind, the best way to share it is by messenger, by text message, one on one, so you can make sure that they will click on the link and listen to the podcast. And
Hang on. And you make sure they understand the messages for them directly. Ha ha ha.
Okay, so now after that, we have our contest, Les Millionnaires des Diamants. So first, when you go on our Facebook group, Les Millionnaires des Diamants and Special Group, every time you post, every time you react, every time you comment, you gain point during the month to be in the top 10 commenter of the group. And at the end of the month, the official top 10 get a voucher to go shop on the boutique Les Millionnaires des Diamants. And then we have a draw also at the end of the month. So to be in the draw, there's two ways: first with the boutique or with the book. So every time you go on the boutique and you place an order, you take a picture, you receive your order, you take a picture, and you post on social media and you tag Jimmy and then same thing with the book. So you receive one of the book, you take a picture, you're reading one of the book, you take a picture, you're Maria.
Oh, you see me.
Now I can see you. I'm not reading a list of names. I can see you. You look like a little girl when you put your hair like that. And you said it was on the side. Okay.
I forget everybody sees me now.
Okay. With the book. So again, take a picture, post it, and tag Limiana de Diamant. And last thing, if you don't already have your ticket for the next conference, click on the link so you can get your ticket to be with us. And we still have place if there's some people that want to be in the studio with us in Anjou, so you can be with us. Send me a message when you get your ticket so I can add you to the list of people that will be with you,
Hang on.
with us.
Hang on. I'm taller. Look how short you guys are.
Attends, check bien ça.
Ah, okay. Innocent games. These are innocent games. Are you done with take a picture?
Yeah, bye-bye.
Okay,
Yeah.
bye bye. Okay, so good morning, Elise. Welcome. Jennifer's in the house. Melanie Miller, thank you for saying hello to everybody. Martin, Megan is here. Jacqueline's husband is being operated at the hospital here in Anjou. Send her a few positive words, please. For the heart, her husband, James. Good morning, James, with the crew. Hey, you guys are amazing. You know, this is what I call an amazing team. David is with us. Good morning, David. Welcome, welcome. Olga, I was watching. I go, where's Olga? Anna is with us. Good morning, Anna. Louise Gauthier, Sherry. Okay, we've got everybody. As I say, everybody's in the house. Oh, Carrie's here this morning. I love it. I love it. I love it. So good morning, my friends. And let's dive in right away. There was a time when leadership sounded like this, okay? Because I said so. That was leadership back in the days. A boss could scream, a husband could decide without asking his wife her thoughts on one of his decisions. A parent could control through fear. A leader could dominate a room and everybody would listen, even if they didn't agree with him or her. Actually, it was back him more than anything else. But something changed. Human beings did definitely evolve, and leadership had to evolve also. So, you know, I want to share with you, I still know bosses that scream and they make sure they hire people they can step on. You know, they're very good at hiring people that have extremely low self-esteem, because generally people with very low self-esteem and confidence, you can scream at them, you know. And husbands that still today decide without asking permission of their wives are very good at having girlfriends or wives that have very low self-esteem and confidence. So I also want to share with you, it still exists today. And these are the type of people that surround themselves with people that they can do that with. Okay. So, you know, when I look at my own mother, my own mother's generation, and sorry guys, my cat is going in my closet. It's so cute. Okay, you don't get it. You can't see it. But Melanie Miller, Marie-Pierre, it's so cute. Okay, back focus. Thank God I have notes, right? Okay. So in my mother's generation, it was a generation with there's a lot of respect, because my mother was an extraordinary leader, but her leadership was very different from mine, completely different. My mother built an incredible business, but she carried everything herself. Here's a few examples. She wrote the meetings by herself. She gave the trainings by herself. She stood in the front of the stage and she did the whole Monday, Tuesday rally by herself. she spoke, everybody listened. It's just the way it was. And honestly, that leadership worked back then in her generation. People expected authority, they expected structure, they expected to be told what to do and what not to do. But today, oh my God, today's world no longer responds the same way. And also, it brought me to think of people my mother lost, like Hélène Jalbert. Remember when I talked to you about my team? I had a team here versus Hélène Jalbert's team that was all these beautiful women. She was an incredible leader. But in a leadership where it's very authoritarian and non-cooperative, what happens is people like Hélène will leave the company, not because they hated my mother or whatever, but because they were a leader themselves and there was no more space to grow. All right. Today, the world no longer responds that way, right? And this is the one of the biggest mistakes leaders make right now. They are trying to lead modern people with outdated leadership. Today, my leadership looks completely different. So today we have an A team. We brainstorm together, we create together, we laugh together, we solve problems together. My leaders train, my leaders speak, my leaders shine. When it comes to a rally, I basically give the 15-minute opening at the beginning. When it comes to power hours, I basically do the opening and then it's in the hands of my directors, because leadership today is no longer look how powerful I am, look how great I am, look how good I am. I know I'm good. I don't need to be out there for you to validate me anymore. So we're at a whole other level. What is the difference between my mom's leadership and mine? My mom didn't know how to read or write. She did develop herself as much as she could have with the means she had back in the days. Whereas I know how to read and write, and I've been in personal development since age 18, and I'm 62, and still at it every single day. So it allowed me to evolve. So you gotta take responsibility and say, it's my job to evolve, not your job. It's my job. And as I evolve, I attract different people. Now, remember, in an authoritarian leadership, you're only going to attract people that are waiting for you what to say. In a cooperative type of leadership, now you're going to attract people like Marie-Pierre. You're going to attract people that has a master's degree, people like Melanie Miller, who has a doctorate's degree. You're going to attract people like Sylvain, who is a teacher, Jean-Philippe. Like, you're going to attract a different caliber of people. These are not people that wait for your directions to do something. These are people that have initiative. Now, honestly, how many of you would love to have people in your team that have initiative? Like, honestly. So because cooperation requires humility, it requires a lot of listening. So yesterday I had a greet and meet with Debbie Faux, and immediately with the young Anthony, I realized that he's too young to have inventory or to do this or that. And I started Tupperware at 18, and I know how hard it is when you don't have the credibility of running a family. And on top of that, he's a boy, a young man, right? So immediately, because of the listening, we realized, or I realized, that he had sold already $3,000 by doing home parties. The only thing was he doesn't know how to plan them. So when we're listening, all the roads lead to Rome. And as a great leader, it is my job to validate what he wants to do and reinforce it. So it requires listening, it requires trusting the process, it requires allowing other people's ideas to matter. And this evolution didn't only happen in business, it also happened in parenting. How many parents, like my father, said, I said no. And I would say, why? Because I said so. There was no understanding, created anxiety, it got me so freaking upset. Like, I wanted to understand. So yes, I obeyed because I was raised right, but I was always angry. You understand? This applied also with couples. The husband leaves on Friday night. He doesn't say, hey, sweetheart, I'm going out with the boys. I hope it's okay. I hope you didn't need me. He just took off, right? Even the marriages have changed, because back in the days, there was no discussion, no communication, no partnership. Today, no, 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 no. There's understanding, there's respect, there's cooperation. But here is the real magic. Force may create obedience, for sure, but it's only temporary. But cooperation creates loyalty. Cooperation creates longevity. Cooperation creates leaders or a team that has integrity. And that is the future of leadership. So today's podcast, re-listen to it over and over by yourself. Go teach yourself leadership through cooperation, because I could have given you a training of 2 hours on how to be a leader through cooperation, but it's a podcast. Okay, we're just here to ignite the fire, but go out there and learn a little bit more if you want to go from here to here in your life. We are in a generation where we don't control people anymore. We don't intimidate people anymore with our titles. We don't dominate people anymore. We are here to rise and grow together. Now, the psychology behind it, the science behind it, I leave you in the hands of Melanie Miller.
Thank you very much, Maria. And as we come to this final attribute of leadership described by Napoleon Hill, we arrive at something that perhaps ties everything together, and that is cooperation. I think it's important because Hill understood something that modern neuroscience now strongly confirms. Human beings perform best when they work together willingly, not when they're controlled through fear. So, what I want to look at is the science behind this. Why does cooperation create higher performance? Why do some environments bring out the best in people while others slowly shut people down? And the answer lies largely in the brain. When leadership is based on fear, pressure, intimidation, or excessive control, the brain shifts into survival mode. And there it is again, that amygdala, the threat detection center of the brain, becomes highly active. Cortisol rises, anxiety rises. People become more cautious and emotionally defensive. Now, something very important happens in this state. People may still obey, they may still comply, but they stop thinking creatively. They stop taking initiative, they stop contributing ideas because the brain becomes focused on one thing only. How do I stay safe? In survival mode, the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for creativity, problem solving, innovation, and higher thinking, becomes less effective. So, fear may create short term obedience, but it rarely creates long term excellence. And it certainly does not create leadership. It creates compliance without emotional commitment. People do the minimum necessary to avoid criticism or conflict, and eventually, many people emotionally shut down. Now, compare that to a cooperative environment when people feel trusted, valued, included, and respected, and the brain shifts into an entirely different state. Stress decreases, the nervous system feels safer, and chemicals like oxytocin begin to increase. Oxytocin is often called the bonding or trust hormone because it strengthens connection, cooperation, and social engagement. In this state, people feel safe to contribute, safe to speak, safe to try, and safe to grow. And when people feel psychologically safe, something remarkable happens. Engagement rises, innovation increases, people begin contributing more of themselves emotionally, not because they are forced to, but because they want to. They feel ownership, they feel that what they do matters, and this is one of the most powerful things a leader can create because people contribute far more when they feel seen. And perhaps this is even more important today than it was in Hill's time. Modern psychology shows that especially younger generations strongly resist excessive control and authoritarian leadership. Today, people want autonomy, voice, purpose, significance, contribution. They do not want dictatorship. They do not simply want to be told what to do every minute of the day. They want to understand why they are doing it. They want to feel part of something meaningful. And scientifically, this makes perfect sense. The human brain is highly motivated by autonomy. When people feel they have a choice and influence, motivation increases dramatically. But when people feel controlled, micromanaged, or ignored, motivation decreases, resistance rises, and cooperation disappears. And this perhaps brings us to the most important point of all. The best leaders do not create dependency, they create ownership, they create help people think. They help people to grow, contribute, lead, because force creates followers, but cooperation creates leaders. And this is one of the great differences between weak leadership and strong leadership. Weak leaders often need to control everything. Strong leaders build environments where people willingly cooperate because they feel trusted and empowered. And once people feel ownership, they no longer need to be pushed constantly. They begin pulling themselves forward. So perhaps cooperation is not simply being nice. Perhaps cooperation is one of the most intelligent leadership strategies possible because cooperative leadership creates trust, engagement, innovation, emotional commitment, long term growth. And ultimately, it creates something far more powerful than obedience. It creates people who want to contribute their best. And perhaps this is why Napoleon Hill placed cooperation as one of the final and most important attributes of leadership because no true great leader succeeds alone. The greatest leaders create environments where people feel safe enough, valued enough, and inspired enough to build something extraordinary together. So now we're going to see through our mirror what sort of cooperative leaders we are. Thank you, Mary Pierre.
Thank you, Melanie. So now let's see how we maybe struggle, or maybe it's natural for us to have that cooperation, because there's still many leaders who struggle because they think that if I'm not controlling, I will lose people. But the true cooperation, it's not a weakness, but it's another level of leadership. It's a mature leadership. So cooperation says that I don't need to overpower people to lead people. So that's a completely different level of leadership. But most people think, no, no, I'm not controlling. No, 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 I'm not yelling. I'm not controlling. But there's something a little bit more subtle. So every time that you interrupt someone, or you just need to be right, or you will shut people down and correcting constantly or controlling every detail. That's the dangerous part, because it's still in that controlling leadership. So people may still obey you, but they will disconnect from you emotionally because of the cooperation. Now it's not a measure of if people will obey you, but it will be measured with that emotional engagement, that they will follow you. So the quiz will help you to see where maybe you still hiding with the force controlling, or if you are going with cooperation. So for every question you can answer A, B, or C this morning. So let's make sure that we answer honestly, because it will help you the most. So let's start question number 1. So when you're speaking with people, which one is true? A, I dominate the conversation more than I realize. B, I try to balance talking and listening. Or C, I intentionally create space for other people to contribute. Question number 2. When it's time to make a decision, so a family with your family, or maybe a team decision that needs to be done, so what usually happens? So A, I will decide what should happen. B, I ask for opinion but still control most of the outcome. Or C, I involve people in the process and value collaboration. Question number 3. When your children or maybe your loved one disappoint you, what do you think that they will most likely feel? A, the fear of your reaction. B, uncertainty on how you will respond. Or C, emotional safety even during the correction. Question number 4. During a disagreement, so what matters most to you? A, winning the point. B, keeping the peace. Or C, reaching understanding together. And question number 5. Why do people follow your instruction? A, because they fear disappointing you. B, because they respect you but still hesitate sometimes. Or C, because they feel part of something meaningful. So did you get mostly A's, mostly B's, or mostly C's this morning? So if you have mostly A, you may still believe that leadership means control. So you still directionally struggle to release that authority and feel safer when things happen your way. But that created that compliance without creativity, that fear instead of trust, and that emotional distance. So people may obey you, but they disconnect from you emotionally. So the next step will be to replace the control with curiosity that will help you to go to the next level. Now, if you have mostly B, you are in the transition. Okay, you are evolving. So you understand that corporation intellectually, but emotionally you still move back and forth between the control, protection, collaboration. So this create that inconsistency, safety, so that there's a mixed signal and people will feel that uncertainty. So that their corporation require that consistency, not just on occasion. So the next step will be to learn to trust people more deeply so you can create that consistency. And now, if you have mostly C, you are in the cooperative leadership. So you understand the future of leadership. So you create emotional safety, you invite the contribution and develop people, and you share the ownership. So that will create loyalty, innovation, and emotional connection. So people do not shrink around you, so they grow. And the next level for you will be to multiply that culture everywhere that you lead. So how you can really create that emotional safety in 3 points. Number 1, let people finish their sentence. So don't interrupt, don't complete their thought, don't rush their explanation. Even if you already think you know what they mean, let people feel heard completely. Number 2, react calmly to mistake. So when someone makes a mistake, your reaction will teach people whether honesty is safe around you. So if your reaction is frustration or sarcasm or intensity, people will learn, oh, I need to hide my mistake. But if you respond, okay, let's understand what happened, that will keep the brain open instead of defensive. And number 3, make it safe to disagree with you. So ask yourself honestly, can people tell me the truth without fearing my reaction? Because that corporation will don't need to always win the room, but they will create room where people can think. So when someone disagrees, don't shut them down, don't defend immediately, don't overpower, but say, okay, interesting, tell me more, so you can really have a conversation. So on that, now is the last attribute, and oops, Naya. Next week we're gonna start the next part of this chapter that will take us another few months to finish this chapter. So have a beautiful day and a beautiful weekend.